into the field of project management, and especially in terms of agile project capabilities. The sequence is same as we have already elaborated in the earlier sessions, that after the recitation from Holy Quran, we'll quickly resumes the expertise opinions from the Mr. Fahim Jafar Saab. His profile is already being known to you. And then we move on towards the overall demonstration experts opinions. And in the meantime, if anyone would like to ask questions, you are requested to raise the hand, so that the host will allow you to proceed with the question directly towards Mr. Fahim Jafar Saab. And at the end, we will have the feedback form requested to be fulfilled by each one of you for your e-certificates and the overall input for the further enhancing of the sessions. Okay. And kindly during these sessions, the same request, you are requested to keep your mics muted, so that we can smoothly execute and mutually learn with the support of one another. Okay. And kindly do log in from your original names. I am just seeing few of the numeric numbers and few of the gadgets number, so kindly rename कर लीजिए. ठीक है, अपने नाम्स को kindly log in with your original names. अगर इसकी ऑप्शन नहीं आ रही तो रीनेम की ऑप्शन आई गेस इट्स बीइंग एबल. So you just have to click and there's a drop down menu name appear that rename, उसमें आप अपने ओरिजिनल नेम के साथ फिर आप लॉग इन कर सकते हैं.
Sir, Madhi Sahab is having some internet connectivity issues, so he's not able to currently connect it.
अच्छा अच्छा चलें, आई गेस वी विल जस्ट नाउ रिज्यूम विद द रेसिटेशन फ्रॉम होली कुरान. सो हम फिर
Sure,
खुद
sir.
ही इसको स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं.
Sure, sir.
So may I request you to recite the verses from the Holy Quran?
Surely, sir.
ठीक है. So is there any other queue in the loop, Abdul Rahman sir?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Waiting area is
No,
अच्छा
sir.
चलें.
We are all
So we
right.
will begin. We have a very decent number of 14 still now. So we will formally begin now, and I'll request Mr. Kasser Shafi to begin the session with the recitation from the Holy Quran. Ji, Mr. Kasser, over to you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah ji, thank you so much. And again, on behalf of FMS, RSL, I'll welcome again Mr. Fahim Jafar Saab. You are very kind enough to spare the time, especially from the Australia, and to linking up with your our scholars who are not just the scholars from the Riphah University, but we have the scholars from the over premier national universities, and few of the scholars are from the foreign countries as well, including Somalia, Afghanistan, and so forth. So we welcome you all, and we are very thankful to sparing the time and expertise opinions from especially Mr. Fahim Saab. His dynamic profile, his capabilities is already being shown and shared with all of the participants. So he is a true inspiration for many of the PMP professionals. So without consuming much of the time, I'll request Mr. Fahim Jafar Saab to proceed, and the other TORs is already being explained. So you have to contribute towards the session by raising the hands, and then at the end you have to provide the feedback form. So sir, please proceed with your expert opinions. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Dr. Samar. Really much appreciated. Really honored to be part of this session, presenting to the university and the students and alumni. Thank you very much and welcome all. Before I start, Abdul Rahman Sahib, if I could ask you to give me the rights to record, or if you could start the recording, because I think because I went out and came back in.
Yes, sir. Recording is started. Already started.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining. So today we're going to talk about Agile project management. And before I won't do that, I'll give you a bit of an introduction of myself, just so that you know where I'm coming from. And the way I want to run this is that I will present a bit of a deck, small deck, it's not a big deck. But I also want you guys to interact with me. So ask questions, as Dr. Samad said, that if you've got a question, by all means, raise your hand or put a question in the chat, and and I've got the team here. We've got team here to help us pick up the questions, and we'll take it from there. But my ask is ask questions. Anything that comes into your mind. There's no wrong question. I'll try to answer as much as I can. If I can't, I'll promise to take that question and come back to you. So let's start. My name is Fahim Jaffer, as Dr. Samad mentioned. I've been in Australia for almost 19 years. I've been out of Pakistan, working in different countries for almost 27 years. I teach project management at the University of Sydney in Australia, and also at Torrens University, Australia, to postgraduate students. I'm a PMI authorized instructor, and I've got project management, professional and project management, risk management professional certification. This seminar, the collaboration with the Riphah University is under the auspices of PROPRAC Consultants, which I founded as part of my work, which is a project management consulting and training company. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, or my email is there, fahim@propracconsultants.com. Any questions, anything, even after the session, I'm more than happy to respond to you guys. What I want to do is, and I'll be switching between Urdu and English, so please, if there's anything, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. I'll go back and I'll try to address your questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about project management and what the project manager does, right? It's just a little small, just to give you a bit of a background on, and because I think before we talk about Agile, it is important to understand what prompted Agile and what really Agile is, what's the background of it, how did it really start, why people thought about using Agile, and why it is now popular. So I'm going to give you a bit of a background on traditional project management methodology. We're going to talk about why Agile, and what are the benefits of Agile. Is it really good, as people say, how Agile really works. I'm going to give you a bit of a understanding on the training and certification that we offer as part of the Agile project management. And I've got a special offer for you because you guys are basically from Riphah University students and alumni. So, and then we will have a Q&A session as well. But in saying that, ask the question anytime. So let's tackle the question. What is a project, right? When we say the project, normally a basic definition of project is something, a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique service or product. Now, what does that mean, temporary endeavor? It means that something which is unique, and temporary does not mean that it is for a short duration. Temporary means that it has a definite start and end. Anything that a project is called a project, it must have a starting point, it must have a starting date, and it should have an endpoint as well. So you cannot have an ongoing thing and call it as a project. A project has a scope, a budget, and a schedule. And I'm pretty sure you guys are already aware of it. So when we talk about the project, so keep three things in mind. That is a temporary endeavor, which is going to create something new, which has not been done before. It has a start date, it has an end date, and it has three key criteria of a scope, budget, and schedule. In a traditional project management terminology, scope, budget, and schedule is also called iron triangle. So when a project manager manages a project, the scope of the main goal of the project manager is to manage the quality of the deliverable by managing the triple constraint, which are also called iron triangle of the scope, budget, and schedule. So that's a bit of a definition of project. The question is, why do we need projects, right? We're fine. Why do we really need to look into initiating a project, or why do organizations really initiate a project? Few things. Market demand. So what does it really mean? It means, something new has come into the market and people want it, right? We as a customer, we want some new product. Organizations go into the development and research to come up with something new that can respond to the market demand. iPhone is a very good example. Some of you will remember about 15, 20 years back when iPhone was initially started, there was no concept of smartphone. So that's a market demand. Then there could be a strategic business need, something new that is coming into the market. And again, we can use the example of the phone, or we can use an example of any new transport system, anything. consider COVID-19 situation as a good example of project. So, when COVID-19 hit us about a year back, none of the organization ever thought about it. Nobody in the world thought about working towards a vaccine to respond to a COVID-19 situation. But as soon as it hit us, and everyone was scrambling to get this vaccine out. So a lot of organizations initiated projects to respond to the market demand and the strategic business need. Then we have a customer request. You may be working in an industry where the customer comes back to you, say, yep, I like your product, but you know what? Whatever you're offering, that's not what I want. I want something new. I want something new. I want you to give me, which has a competitive, competitive advantage over my other customer, my clients, my competition. So you might go into an environment where you're gonna create a new project. So that's a response to a customer request. Technological change. I don't know how many of you know when project management, when computer science started. It started with a small PC. IBM. There's a company called Commodore 6. Commodore, they came up with Commodore 60. Was a very good, very famous machine. But over a period of time, the technology changed. Now we're looking at faster, quicker PCs. I remember when I started my career, I used to work on a system in Islamabad with Agriculture Development Bank, where their hard disk was 40 MB, and 4 people used to carry that. But over a period of time, technology changed and things like that. When the technology changes, then organization go and initiate project to adopt that technology or enhance that technology. So that's another fact. Then there could be a social and environmental need or legal or regulatory requirement. So example of social environmental need would be, the greenhouse effect. If you guys are familiar with it, a lot of countries are working towards reduction in the greenhouse gases, carbon emission. So they have started a lot of projects. Similarly, there could be a directive from the government or legal requirement to incorporate certain aspects into your organization hierarchy or in organizational working environment. To give you an example, every year when the government releases a budget, they come up with some incentives. The tax officers, they initiate projects to get those legal requirements incorporated into their systems. So these are some of the examples of why you can start a project. Now, just so that I understand, let's see, can you think of an example of a project at your workplace or outside somewhere where you think that's a project? I'll give you a couple of minutes or 30 seconds or a minute. Let me know if you have an opportunity to witness a project that you think could be anything. Anyone? Yeah, ERP implementation. Very good, very good. Well done. Yeah, you want to make your phone. Absolutely. Construction of a new home is a very good project. Construction of orange train. I don't know what orange train is, but yeah, construction of the train is, yeah, absolutely. New company, good one, right? So when you establish a new company, you would have a scope, budget, and timeline. But once the company is established, then it will become an ongoing process. Yeah. Automation of museum. Well done. Construction of sugar refinery. Well done. New city design, software development. Well done. Ventilators making locally. Yeah, good. Skyscrapers, construction and real estate. Well done, guys. Really good. I'm really glad you guys are really very informed audience. So I have to be very careful what I teach you guys. Well done. No, thank you very much. You're absolutely spot on. ERP implementation or construction. In fact, project management was initiated by construction and civil industry. So way back in early 60s, early 50s, it was the PMI or project management when it initially started. It was started for the construction and manufacturing industry. And that's why when we talk about the traditional project management, you will notice that a lot of information in the traditional project management sense is related to construction and manufacturing and civil industry. Okay, so we talked about what the project is. We understand now how we start the project. So who's going to manage the project? Well, who do we need to manage a project? So we need a project manager to manage a project. Now, what does really mean? We need a person who can lead the project team to achieve the objectives of the project that you want, right? Somebody who will spend time in planning the work that needs to be done, executing the work, and then managing the resources and the people required to complete that work. And that person is called project manager, right? The key goal of the project manager is to ensure that the project goals and objectives are met within the quality constraints, keeping in view the scope, budget, and the schedule. Okay, that's the role of the project manager. Right? Now, there are, according to PMI, which is Project Management Institute, by 2027, globally, organization will be looking at around 88 million individuals some in project management roles. 88 millions across the globe in only project management related roles. And that's a big number. And the reason for that is the research indicates that organizations are on an average are wasting $97 million for every $1 billion invested. So it's a low percentage, 97 million for every $1 billion, but that means there's a lot of money being wasted. A certified and experienced, certified, knowledgeable, skilled project manager can overcome these challenges. That's why project management is fast becoming the profession of choice across the globe. Uh, the challenge across the globe is getting the right people with the right set of skills, right? I just want to give you a bit of feel for it so that you guys know where the project management profession is going. And we're going to talk about the methodology, traditional and agile. Okay, we talked about project. We know a project, who the project is. We know the demand of the project managers. The question is, what is project management? Why do we really need project management? Project management, in simple terms, is an organized and structured report to perform a work. That's it. It's a very, it's a very simple definition. How you approach your work. There's nothing fancy about it. It helps to get the work quicker and cost effectively. Imagine that you're going to buy a car. You want to buy a second-hand car. Let's think about a second-hand car. You're going to do a bit of research about it. So your scope is buy a car. Then you would have some sort of a funds kept aside for that car. That is your budget to buy that car. You also want to buy a car within certain timeline. So you are buying a car. You can relate it to basically a project, because once you have bought the car, then you can use it for your benefit. So you are the end customer, right? You're going to look into some of the risks of buying that car. अगर मैं पुरानी कार लेता हूँ उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है, इंजन लीक तो नहीं कर रहा, कोई और मसला तो नहीं है. But you're going to consider those things, right? Keep this in mind, and we're going to have a bit of chat about it. Key objective of the project management is to plan and execute a project with improved accuracy of scope, time, and cost. Now, by minimizing the impact of the risk. So going back to our example of the car, when you're buying a second-hand car, what is your key objective? You want to get a good vehicle that can help you go, move around safely and without any problem. So you're gonna be focusing on the kind of the car, the amount of money you have, and the minimum risk of using a car that is not capable of helping you, right? So that's keep this in mind. You will do a proper planning. Without proper planning and structured approach, you may end up buying a car which will cost you more and may create more problems. Okay? So project management, in simple terms, overcomes this challenge. When you plan, when you take a structured approach, when you think about what you're doing, it helps you minimize the risk, and it helps you get the work done quickly and cost effectively. So instead of wasting time, you can do the work quickly because you have planned for it. Okay. Any questions, guys, before I move on at the moment? Just want to give you a bit of a background on these things. Any questions? Anything? Nope. Okay.
Not so clear.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So project management start with. So, and this is, we are talking about early 60s and 50s and 60s. As I mentioned, concept जो basically उस वक्त था कि construction and civil engineering, right? When you are constructing, and one of the example was given that somebody wants to build a house, what you do, you don't go and suddenly put the roof. You start step by step, right? You do the piering, then you get the walls up, and so on and so forth. So there's a step by step process. That's a called waterfall approach. If you look at the waterfall या आबशार अगर आप देखें तो उसमें जब पानी आता है हर कतरा दूसरे कतरे को follow करता है, right? ऊपर से if you look at the figure also, the waterfall is basically a concept saying the water is, every drop is following the water drop ahead of it. That's why it's called waterfall. In project management, the traditional project management, waterfall method is where you do things step by step. It's a sequential approach. So you do, you start the project, you come up with a concept, you plan it, you design it, you execute it, and then you close it. So there's a step by step. To give you an example of it, consider a project where, and this is by no means a definite for every, excuse me, every industry use a different way of approaching it. But in general, you can take that as a sequential step. There's, idea, and then you go to the analysis. Once you've looked at the idea, you want to analyze it. You want to see what would be the impact. Is it a good idea, bad idea? And then you would design. We're talking about, let's say, a software or IT infrastructure, right? Once you've designed it, you go into the development. Once you've developed it, you'll go into the testing, and finally you go into the production implementation. Now consider a scenario that you are in the design phase and you suddenly realize that you have missed a requirement. So you're going to go back to analysis, you're going to incorporate that new requirement, and you're going to start all over again, because it's a step-by-step process. You can't skip the process. So any new requirement that comes in, you have to go through the process of analysis, design, develop, test, and implementation, right? You complete one task and then you go to the next task. And that's why it is called a waterfall method. You're doing step-by-step sequential approach to deliver a project. And that's how the traditional project management was initially introduced. It was formally introduced by PMI in a white paper published in 1947. So 1987. PMI published a white paper and then they formalized that into a book called PMBOK, which is a project management body of knowledge. So in 1996, so the first edition of Project Management Body of Knowledge was, the white paper was in 1987, the first edition was in 1996, and by 2004, it already had its fourth edition. The latest edition at the moment was released in 2017, it's the sixth edition. The whole concept of the book is provide the guidance for the project manager, how to implement a project, how you go about implementing a project. And it is based on a project life cycle, which is a traditional waterfall life cycle. And it says the life cycle is, then you start a project initiation, you initiate a project, you think about what the idea is, you put it on a paper, you discuss it, you figure it out, how much it's going to cost you tentatively, how much time frame it's going to take you, what resources you need, and so on and so forth. You put that idea, get that idea agreed, and then you go into the planning. And in the traditional approach, the planning is done holistic planning. It's right from the beginning. So you start planning on the day one and you plan for the finish. So the traditional approach is, project may be, आपका project may be 1 साल duration का हो, लेकिन आप उसकी साल की planning करते हैं, right? And this is how you look at it. आप उस पे base पे budget अपना करते हैं. You look at it, your resource. Once you've done the planning, you go into execution, where how you're going to implement the project. And आपकी planning के दौरान you define how you're going to implement this project. What are the steps will be involved, whether you're going to design it, when you're going to design it, and you put dates around it. You build a detailed plan for it. Once you have completed the whole cycle, and then you, at the end of the project, when you finish it, it's called closing. So this is the four, so initiation, planning, execution, and closing. And all of this is managed through a process called control and monitoring. So you basically, there are processes defined where you use these processes to manage and control your project, just so that you keep the project focused on the objectives and the goals. Okay, any questions, guys, on the project life cycle, traditional life cycle? Okay. Okay.
What is the difference between control and monitoring, sir?
Okay. So control and monitoring is a phase that is defined by PMI. Control is how you keep the quality check, and monitor is how you track the performance of the project. So there are a lot of processes involved in it, but the idea is that you control, keep the project within the parameters of the performance and required parameter of the performance parameter of the scope, budget, and schedule. And monitor is how you regularly report on those performance parameters. Yeah, and there are a lot of processing involved in it. When we go into detail, I can explain you that. But that's what it is. That's why the control and monitoring happens throughout the life cycle of the project. It is not specific to the initiation or planning, but you have to keep doing it from the day one. As a project manager, you report and monitor and control the project from the day one, because you become responsible, accountable for the project. Does it answer your question?
Thank you, sir. Right, sir.
Okay, yes. Abdul Malik, you have got a question? पूछना चाहते हैं कुछ?
काइंडली सर ये बता दें कि क्लोजिंग ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में.
हाँ जी, सॉरी, क्या क्वेश्चन आपका अब्दुल मलिक?
ये क्लोजिंग ऑफ लाइफ साइकिल प्रोजेक्ट.
हाँ जी, क्लोजिंग जो है, तो ये एक ऐसा लाइफ साइकिल जो मैं आपको अभी दिखाया, ये एक जेनेरिक लाइफ साइकिल है, लेकिन व्हेन यू गो इनटू द डिटेल, इसमें और प्रोसेसेस है. व्हेन यू रीड अबाउट, यू गो इनटू द डिटेल्स. क्लोजिंग में आप प्रोजेक्ट को जब कंप्लीट हो जाता है, व्हाट आर द स्टेप्स? हो उसमें स्कोप एक्सेप्टेंस इज वन ऑफ द प्रोसेस, कि जब आपने प्रोजेक्ट को, जो आपने इनिशिएट किया है, उसका आपने एक प्रोजेक्ट को डिफाइन किया, आपने ये उसका स्कोप डिफाइन किया. स्कोप क्या है? जो आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव है प्रोजेक्ट को मिलकर. क्लोजिंग जब आप करते हैं प्रोजेक्ट की, यू मस्ट डू क्लोजिंग. उसमें आप कस्टमर को से साइन ऑफ लेते हैं कि ये मैंने आपका काम कर दिया है. आर यू हैप्पी विद इट? Do you agree with the work that I have delivered? And that's what you. So I'll give you an example. मैं हमने अभी कार की बात की थी. अगर आप कार खरीदते हैं, उसमें क्लोजिंग क्या होगी? उसमें क्लोजिंग ये होगी कि जब आपने गाड़ी पिक कर ली, तो जो कार सेलर जो है, वो कार डीलर जो है, उसने जब आपको हैंड ओवर की गाड़ी, जब आपने ट्राई कर ली, आप खुश हो गए, जब आपने उसको पेमेंट की, दैट इज क्लोजर फ्रॉम हिज साइड एंड योर साइड, दैट यू हैव एक्सेप्टेड द प्रोडक्ट. Does it make sense? जी, मोहम्मद काशिफ, मैं कुछ अब्दुल रहमान, मुझे आपकी हेल्प चाहिए. I can only see 2-3 minutes, so
just one question, sir. Normally,
Yes, sir.
I'm Kashif Salim. Let me ask the question.
Yes.
We are just focusing, whenever we are studying the project management and PMP, we are studying the skill sets. Now, these skill sets are required. So, do you describe few behavior or personality characteristics for the project manager also, which actually make him a very unique and a distinctive person apart from regular managers?
Yeah, Kashif, that's a very good question. In fact, जब मैं ये बना रहा था text, so I had a slide there, the skills that you need as a project manager. I'm happy to show that. I'll go through it, but I'm happy to show that. Definitely, there are certain skills that you need. So, जब हम project management पढ़ते हैं, PMP is a certification, and I'm going to talk to you about that as a project management professional certification. Certification is a recognition of your skills and knowledge in the field. Certification does not mean that that it will teach you everything. It is a recognition. It's a basically check and monitor and control of your skills, right? कि आपके पास project management skill है, आपके पास knowledge है. Some of the key skills, and I can explain to you, of the project manager is communication. According to a research, a project manager spends about 85 to 90% time just communicating. Now, जब हम ये कहते हैं communicating, and it's a very big figure, right? 85 to 90%. What does it really mean? It means the project manager is talking to the stakeholders, sending them emails, doing performance reporting, doing control, dealing with the stakeholders. So if you're dealing with the stakeholders, the number one skill that you need is people management. How are you going to deal with your stakeholders? Communication, negotiation, it's a bit. Human interaction key, soft skills, these are the key skills for a project manager. Similarly, you work in a team. जब आप team में काम करते हैं, आप class में भी होते हैं, group में काम कर रहे थे, there could be a conflict, there could be problems. So the key skills for project manager is problem solving. conflict resolution, how the project manager would approach a conflict and respond to it. All right. You don't want to work with a project manager who would just get, oh, no, I can't solve your problem, right? No, you need a project manager who will solve the problem, because what is the role of the project manager is to deliver the project, meet the objectives of the goal in the time and the budget allocated, right? And that requires skills. So these are there are other skills like technical skills are also required these days, depending on your industry. But I have to say I'm more inclined, because project management itself is a industry agnostic provider. And what I mean is that you have a PMP. It doesn't mean that you can only go in the education or finance or IT. It means you can go and work as a project. It's a recognition of your skills as a project manager, right? There are other skills as well. I'm happy to go through it. We can talk about it. But yes, there are a number of skills that you require. We talked about negotiation, problem solving, conflict resolution, communication, technical skills, leadership skills are very important. How the project manager is going to lead the team towards the common goal. You have to get the team building skill is required for a project manager. How the project manager is going to keep the team cohesive to reach the goal. Again, keep this in mind. The project manager role is to make sure that he or she reaches the goal objective of the project within this scheduled time and the budget that he or she has. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Mohammed, आपका question, I'm sorry, I can't see your full name.
Mohammed Zahid Tabas, sir. Mohammed Zahid, do you want to ask any question?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, please ask.
Okay. Sir, I have two questions. One thing, in the previous slides, you mentioned that being a project manager, successfully, अगर हम time cost जो triple constraints हैं, उनको fulfill करते हैं, तो that will be the successful project. लेकिन इसमें सर जो stakeholders का objective होता है, जो key stakeholder होता है, ठीक है, उसको भी involve करना जरूरी नहीं है. ये तो first question है. Second question, in project life cycle, do we care about the post project issues? वो किस phase के अंदर या project life cycle में किस point के अंदर address करेंगे?
Okay, now very good questions, Zahid. So let me address to it. So पहला question आपका ये है कि do we need to consider stakeholder in our project execution? Number one, yes, absolutely 100%. So the point I was making is in project, when we are talking about the project triple constraint, and that's where the traditional waterfall approach comes in. That I'm glad you asked the question, because this is how we're going to tackle in Agile, right? The traditional approach ka jo hai, and that is still very valid at the moment, is approaching the project in terms of the iron triangle, which is looking at the scope, budget, and the cost with the delivery. Yes, dealing with the stakeholder is there, right? But the main goal in the traditional environment is within the scope and budget. Or agar wo scope budget nahi hai, then there's a concept of change control. So, but hold your thought. I'm going to respond to it, and this is where the Agile came in. This is one of the reason that Agile came into being, because there was a question about, how can we get stakeholders more engaged in our project, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the customer we are delivering the project for. So that's number one. दूसरा आपका question है issues. Issues as part of a project, you start as a project manager, right when you start planning the project, you start looking at the risk and issues. So there's a whole framework of risk management within the PMBOK, which is project management book of body of knowledge. And yes, you right from the day one, you start documenting, looking at it, and there's a document called issues log and a risk register that you start filling in from the day one, and you have to do it on a regular basis. Issues and risks are continuously, regularly looked at it, reviewed, looked at the prioritization of the responding to it until the day and last day of the project. There could be a situation and it happens a lot of time when the project managers can't close the risk, so they have to pass on the risk or find a way to pass this on to somebody else. There's the whole science behind how the risk management is the risk management framework of how the risks are managed throughout the life cycle of the project. But yeah, from the day one. Thank you very much, guys, for the question. Okay. Okay, the benefit, let's talk about the benefit of those. We talked about it. We know that, benefit of the project, waterfall project is it's an organized approach. We talked about greater overall efficiency, effective risk management. Zahid ne bhi question pucha. We know we are going to focus on costing and budgeting, better resource management. That's all the benefit of the waterfall project management, because there was no other project way of doing project at that time. But there were some challenges, right? The number one challenge was before, when you start the project, it had to be fully planned in the beginning, right? When we look at the traditional approach, it's talks about there's a whole planning process, and it says that you plan the project till the end, right? Change kuch lane ki abhi Zahid ne baat ki. So if you have a risk and that risk is impacting your project, you may have to raise a change to address that uh, risk. And by adding a change, yes, it is possible to do it, but it was difficult, right? At times you have to go back to step one. Change may introduce more risk, and you have to go through the whole process of analyzing, impact analyzing, and trying to see how you're going to meet your objective, right? The whole point of the waterfall methodology was that it should follow clear steps and set time frame, right? Once these elements were in place, it is difficult to make the changes once the development, once you encounter a problem, right? So that's some of the challenges. Then Sahil rightly asked about the stakeholder. There was a stakeholder engagement, but it was at a reporting level, or it is not as collaborative. So if you're reporting on a project, um, you're letting stakeholder know what the status of the project is, right? And a lot of time in traditional approaches, stakeholders or customers may not know till the end what they develop, and they may basically know at the end of the project, right? Especially this was a very big problem in the software industry. Um, जो चीज उन्होंने order की थी, that's not what they want. So the biggest problem that was encountered by IT industry and the software development industry using the traditional approach was that the end of the day, when they delivered the software, the customer would say, no, I don't want this. I perceive something else. But you used a step-by-step approach, and that sequential approach, you have to go through the analysis, design, testing, and implementation. You give the end product, and the customer says, no, I don't want that. I asked you for something else. Now, if that happens when you're trying to close a project, that means you have to go back and restart and spend more money in. So these were some really big challenges. And frankly, in early 80s and early 90s, till late 90s, software developers were really frustrated with doing projects this way, because they were struggling to deliver the project. And then they said, well, hang on a second, what is happening? Because what gave Zahid asked a question about what prompted Agile was unhappy customers. Customers was just frustrated. They were not getting the product that they wanted, especially in terms of when they were doing software development. Computer sciences were becoming a big field, and the customer wanted a product early and something that they need. When they were getting the products, they were not happy with it, and they would redesign it, going back to deliver the product, which is redesigned and so on. It was a big problem. So in around 2000, about 17 software developers, senior professionals in US, they gathered at a place called Utah, and they come up with, they said, well, we have to do something about it. This is not how we can continue delivering software. And Agile started with software development. And the idea was to software development. They came up with they realized that by taking a traditional approach, they're getting incomplete or poor requirements. The customers are told about unrealistic schedule and deadlines. There's a continuous scope changes, and number one was there was a lack of collaboration, customer collaboration. That means customer को जब end product मिलती है, जब वो feedback देगा, then you go back to the drawing book and so on and so forth. And that's becoming a problem, right? The major problem that really gave rise was most of the customers were saying, this is not how I expected it to work. That was really the phrase that they focused on. Now, this is not how you decide. So, it's a very simple example. If you buy a smartphone, you want that smartphone to work in a certain way. There's an expectation. But if it doesn't, then you're not happy with it, no matter how much money you spend on it. If you as a customer is not happy with with the way the smartphone is working, your smartphone working, or the way you're perceiving it to work, it's a problem, right? You're not going to be happy with it. And that's what caused. So these guys came up with an agile concept. They said, well, hang on a second, we need to find a better way of doing it. They said, we need to focus on individuals and interaction over processes and tools. So traditional project management is very process oriented. We talked about step-by-step approach, and there are a lot of tools involved. They said, no, this is not going to work. And remember, guys, so Agile was a brainchild of software developers. So we're talking about people who were neck deep into software development. They were focused on software development and so on. They said, so we need to interact. So this is basically interaction with a customer. They said, we need a working software over comprehensive documentation. And that was another challenge that the software industry was having, that traditional approach has a lot of documentation, scope documents, scope management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, schedule management, and there are a lot of management plans. There, 30, 35 documents that if you are doing a big piece of work, you probably end up doing it and then keeping them updated. They said, no, that's waste of time. And they said, we need customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, what does that mean? That's basically what Zahid asked. We want customer to talk to us on a regular basis. We don't want to go to the customer at the end because the customer's our contract says, customer will receive the product. No, we want customer to talk to us on a regular basis. We don't want to go. We want customer to tell us when we are developing the product software. And again, I keep going with the concept of software, so that we can fix the software there and then. And then lastly, they said, responding to change. They said, we need to find a way to respond to changing requirement. We don't want to stick to the plan. So remember, the traditional project management, detailed plan right from the beginning, right? This is how we're going to follow the plan. Now, they also recognize that things that traditional approach has are not incorrect, but it's just not fit for use for software development. So consider these things. It's very important to keep this thing in mind. This whole idea came up with the software development. So they came up with Agile Manifesto, which was based on 4 key values. So individual over interaction, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. So what are the key features of Agile development? Let me get the laser printer on. Sorry. So broad vision. First of all, we want to have a vision. What are we trying to do? We are trying to build an app, which will give me a weekly status of, weather. I want to build an app which will give me, daily weather status, right? Build small. So how I'm going to do it. I'm going to, first of all, just build a basic app. I'm just going to do a basic app just so that customer can see it. And then I'm going to ask customer whether the customer likes the basic infrastructure or not, basic layout of the app or not, right? Start small. The concept is smart small. Build what you know, right? And then deliver repeatedly, right? What does it mean? Incremental and iterative approach. What it means is time box it. Let's agree on a period of time that I'm going to produce a software over this period of time, that I'm going to show it to the customer and ask customer to give me a feedback. Based on the feedback, I'm going to adjust my software. I'm going to learn what the customer has told me. I'm going to fix the product. Then I'm going to redo it and within against a specified time period and go back to the customer, right? What is happening here? Or what is happening is that I'm continuously talking to the customer, and customer knows that I'm in touch. So if I'm talking to someone on a regular basis, the person knows I'm working on that on his or her product, right? So that's at a high level, broad vision, build small, deliver repeatedly, seek feedback, customer feedback and team feedback, learn, adapt and adjust, right? Realize objective. End goal is customer satisfaction. That is the key of the Agile, right? You need to have a satisfied customer. That's what the problem. This is how we started working towards it, right? Now, there are a number of Agile methodologies. One of the most popular one is Scrum approach. Now, what Scrum is it's basically, if you look at it, what it's saying, it's a sprint. There's a concept of sprint, right? It's usually time boxed. What it means is each sprint is usually 2 to 4 weeks. In normal case, we normally say the traditional, these days, the industry standard is becoming 2 weeks. So you plan, design, deliver, develop, test, and deploy within 2 weeks a component, something that the customer can use. So the concept, the main concept of the Agile methodology is we don't want to spend long time in discussing. We want to pick, I'll explain you. Minimum viable, there's a concept called MVP or minimum viable, something that the customer can use at the end of the sprint. And each sprint is usually between 2 to 4 weeks. And then we will do continuous sprint. We will do an incremental delivery. Let's take an example of the website. My first sprint, 2-week sprint would be, I will set up a website infrastructure, layout, what the website will look like and so on. In the next 2 weeks, I will probably add payment gateway in there. In the next 3 weeks, I will add e-commerce, and next 2 weeks, I will e-commerce, and so on and so forth. So you're delivering every 2 weeks, you're delivering something that customer can look at it, test it, and say, yeah, give you a feedback. Yes, this works, this doesn't work, and so on and so forth. The key thing is you're not planning for the entire website right from the day one. You're planning for the 2 weeks. So you're still doing a planning, but you're planning for incremental delivery, right? 2 weeks, once those 2 weeks were finished, you get a customer feedback, you take that feedback on board, and the next 2 weeks, you focus on the next part, and so forth. Is that okay with you guys? I'm just trying to explain it to you in a way it's easy for you. Any questions, by the way? Any questions? Nope. Oh, yeah, Sana, you got a question, please? Sorry, Sana, I can't hear you. Aapka mic.
I have a question.
Sir, we can use both method in both approaches in one project, or specifically, yeah, एक project important, एक approach important है एक project में.
आपका sorry Sana, so आप ये कह रही हैं कि आप approach like agile approach or traditional approach इसकी बात कर रही हैं या?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, it's a very good question. I'm gonna come back. क्योंकि now what is happening is not every organization is traditional waterfall and not every organization is traditional agile, fully agile. So there is a concept called hybrid, where some areas you use traditional approach and in other areas you use agile methodology. So there's a new concept of hybrid. It's a long discussion. I'm happy to have another session if the university wants, but hybrid approach is where you merge both these to get the outcome, a good outcome. Remember, nothing is perfect. There's no such thing as perfect environment. There's no such thing as perfect. It is what suits the organization. So I've worked in an organization where we had both. I worked in an organization which was only traditional. I've also worked in an organization which is going towards agile. So, but to be fully agile, you need a lot of maturity. The organization needs to be fully aware. So I hope that answers your question. Now, thank you very much. Ji Salim, you've got a question?
सर ये जो एजाइल अप्रोच मुझे लग रही है कि इसमें ये ज़्यादातर उन प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं जिस तरह सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट है या रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं जहाँ पे कि आपको एक्सेप्टेंस साथ साथ चाहिए होती है और नई नई चीज़ें आपको पता चल रही होती हैं, लेकिन जो एक ट्रेडिशनल प्रोजेक्ट्स है जिस तरह हाउस कंस्ट्रक्शन है, ब्रिज कंस्ट्रक्शन है, इसमें तो ट्रेडिशनल अप्रोच ही ज़्यादा बेहतर है मेरे ख्याल में.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So there's a saying in Agile which is says Agile cannot be used in an environment that uses concrete or steel. So Agile, and I have to say it is not. It started as a software for software industry, but it is not basically confined to software industry anymore now. And it's gone to business are going Agile. There's a concept of Agile shift, but you're right. Agile cannot be used if number one, when there is a concrete and steel involved, that's for sure, and also if you cannot do a minimal viable product, right? अगर आप घर बना रहे हैं तो आप घर में खाली एक कमरा बना के मूव नहीं हो सकते, right? Agile की approach क्या है कि every 2 weeks you have a minimal viable product, something that the customer can use. But you can't do that when you're doing a construction. आप घर में एक कमरा बना के move नहीं होती. You have to complete the house. You have to do a flooring करनी है, walls खड़ी करनी है, so you cannot do that. But in software, yes, you can, right? आप पहले website बना सकते हैं, या product बना सकते हैं, या कोई भी even. So that your point in that sense is absolutely correct. Maham, आपका question?
Sir, my question is that for a purely agile project, do we still put together a skeleton for the whole body of the project to know an approximate frame of reference of what we're going to do? And secondly, sir, you said that we can't complete a single room and shift the family and then construct the whole house, but we can at least have the customer visit the site and see how the progress is going and if they want to change anything from their initial plan.
That's a very good question, ma'am. So let me answer your question number one. I'll answer the second question first. Yes, you can get the concept of agile is something that customer can use at the end of the sprint or the time box event, which normally industry standard is between 2 to 4 weeks. Yes, the customer can have a feel for it, but the customer can't move in, right? So that's why it is not suitable. The concept is not that customer can see it, it's customer can use the product. So it's called usable product at the end of the sprint. That's the main concept of the agile. So that's the number one question. Sorry, remind me, what was your other question? Sorry, I forgot. What was your other question?
Sir, my first question was that should we at least have a skeleton in place of what we're going to do so we have an approximate idea for things?
Absolutely. So my next slide explains a little bit more in detail. You're absolutely right. You still need to have a plan and approach to do it, right? What is project management? Project management is approaching anything in a clear, structured, organized way. Agile is not saying don't be structured, don't be organized. It's just saying change the approach, the way you're working, right? And remember, it initially started for the software. So yes, my next slide will explain you how the Agile really works. So yeah, it's a good question. Can I just show the next slide and I'll come to the 4 hands that are raised, if that's okay? Because I think that will answer also a question. So look at this slide. And this is basically based on the Scrum method, which is a Scrum. What Agile is basically saying, the whole concept of a sprint is, so you have a product backlog, and product backlog is nothing but your pipeline, the work that needs to happen, right? And we said we will have a sprint between 2 to 4 weeks. So what you do is you pick the items from the product backlog that you think, and there's a process to it. I'm just simplifying it, that you select to deliver within 2 weeks. You pick the project that you can deliver within 2 weeks, right? At the end of 2 weeks, you get a product that is out, you go to the customer, you have a feedback, you add, reprioritize and reorganize whatever is required, and then you go back and do another sprint for the next sprint. Now, the number one question that comes into mind, we're talking about the organization which are very hierarchical organization. In organization, you have CEO, general managers, directors and managers, and so on and so forth. And the project manager at times is very low in the chain. And then project manager has a team, right? That's traditional hierarchical approach. If I were to do an agile project, that approach won't work. The whole concept of the agile is that you need to have an empowered, self-organizing team. What that means, number one, agile teams are usually small, 7 to 9, maximum 9, usually not industry standard. There's no industry standard about it, but usually not more than 9 people in a set. But that team is fully sufficient and self-organized in the sense that team would have a tester, a product owner, a project manager, a scrum master, developer, any composition of the skills that is required to deliver that one item from the sprint backlog. So the agile will only work if the team, the scrum team or the agile team that is working on the product is fully empowered to take decision and move around things how they want it, so that they can meet the customer requirement and get the customer to test after 2 weeks. Does it make sense? So this is the key. So the agile is a very big shift from the traditional project management. And that's why I gave a view of how the traditional project management works. Traditional project management is very hierarchical. Agile is not. In agile, basically senior management and stakeholders, they come and look at a concept. We have a called sprint review, where they come, we show them, what we have delivered and so forth. And that's it. They don't influence what the team does in the during the sprint, during the 2 to 4 weeks. They get updated. There's a concept of daily scrums, and there's a level of detail that goes into it. But the focus is fully empowered self-organizing team. Now, when we talk about self-organizing, that means if I am in the team, let's say Fahim is in the team and he's a software developer, and I get sick today, then there should be someone else to pick up the work, fill for Fahim, so that the work can continue. Remember, it's a time box. It's a 2 to 4 weeks. You have to deliver within the entire box something, a product that customer can use. That's the key. Now, there are certain events. There are 4 key events that happen in an agile scrum method. There's a concept of sprint planning, there's a daily scrum, there's a sprint review, and sprint retrospect. Sprint planning is the first item where you basically, this is where the planning concept is. I think Maham asked the question. That's the framework that is used by the scrum approach. The items are taken from the sprint backlog. The scrum team or agile team looks at it, estimate the effort they need, estimate the amount of work they will need to deliver within the 2 sprints, and then they put that in their sprint backlog, start working on it. On a daily basis, they have a 15-minute call at the start of the day. And that the only thing, and it's called daily scrum or daily stand-up. The concept is everyone in the scrum team or agile team, so I keep using these words are used interchangeably, they would come and each one of them will tell 3 things. What I have done yesterday, what I'm going to do today, and what are some blockers or problems that are stopping me from doing the work today. That's it. There's nothing else. That's what they focus on. They don't focus on anything else. That's what. And what it does is, and there's a visual burn down chart and burn up charts as well. It's a visual thing. So management, if anybody from the management is passing by, they just look at the chart. They don't bother the team they're working. The team needs to be fully focused on one thing that they're working. There's no concept of multitasking. And in fact, Agile is against multitasking. At the end, towards the end of the sprint, when 2 weeks, let's take 2 weeks, when they deliver the product, there's a sprint review. It is also called demo. And what it does is basically, again, look at the between 2 to 4 hours. It basically shows the customer and stakeholders, this is what we have delivered, and this is how it's going to work, the product that we're going to get. And the customer then gives the feedback, say, yeah, makes sense. I think it's going to work. No, it's not working. I want you to change it, change the website layout. I don't know. The team takes that and put it back into the sprint backlog to be revised for the next sprint. Then the last one is sprint retrospect. This is also called lesson learned. The team, gather among themselves and ponder about what has gone well for the team during the sprint, what they did well, what are some challenges they face, and what are few things that they need to focus on in the future. So that's the full cycle of the Agile. Very simple. This is the most commonly used approach, which is Scrum, and it's pretty simple when you get used to it. Okay, I'll go to the hands. I think Mehreen Badr, you had a question, please. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I'm Mehreen Badr and I have 12 plus years of experience in project management and currently working in one of the leading IT firms in Pakistan. Thank you very much for the informative session. So I have 2 questions. One is that I think sometimes I feel that the Agile methodology is misused in a sense that we see a bit of a chaos in terms of its agenda, which is to we can adapt and we can change, but that definition is actually misused and it creates a lot of chaos. So what do we do about that? I think and I think I've noticed based on your feedback, this happens mostly because of the fact that when people are trying to do multitask, and that we cannot avoid being in different roles in a project. So this is my first question. What do we do about that? And is this true that Agile can be misused? Okay. And
Yeah.
second question is that I think there is a role of Scrum Master, and then there is a role of Project Manager. There has been debate a lot on the fact that these two roles are kind of similar or these two roles are different. So please shed some light on the fact that whether they are different, they can be same, or what.
Okay. Now, so Mary, big question and big debatable question. So, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of misconception about Agile. And the reason for that is Agile has evolved from becoming a software only oriented to basically a business oriented approach. A lot of businesses across the world are taking on the Agile approach, not only from the IT point of view, but also in their business agility, bringing the business. There's a concept called Agile shift. They do it. Yes, the debate is there. An organization has to be very mature and culturally willing to accept the letting go of hierarchical culture. Agile will only be successful if if an organization is willing to let go of hierarchical culture. Now, I'm in West. There's a different environment. Pakistan is a different environment where any organization culture is impacted by the demographics and country culture as well. Agile teams need to be self-sufficient, self-organizing, own decision making. In an organization where that is not allowed, Agile will struggle. That's the answer to the first question. So there has to be a maturity, and I'm glad you have about mashallah 12 years of experience. That's really good to hear. More than happy to have a chat. I want to talk to you. I'm going to take one more question, but and then we'll go. I want to go through this and then let you guys open up for half an hour for questions. But the debate about Scrum Master and project, it's coming to an end. There's a realization now, and I think somebody asked, if I remember, Sana asked about hybrid things. Agile in organization in the global world, the way the world is changing, Agile cannot exist on its own. It has to coexist with the traditional. Agile is an art. Traditional approach is a science. Let me put it this way. And this science and art has to go together. They cannot. They cannot be separated. Because the way the environment is, organizations are evolving. So traditional is evolving. To give you an idea, the latest PMBOK project management body of knowledge, 6th edition in 2017 release, has a full Agile guide. So PMI even realized, who are the custodian of the traditional project management, that they cannot function without Agile. And they work with a company called Agile Alliance to come up with an Agile guide, just so that they can incorporate Agile concept within the traditional approach. And that's a reality, right? So that's so project managers are there. This role of the project manager and Scrum Master is totally different. Scrum Master, the role is to make sure the team focuses on the work during the sprint and gets it done, so that nobody bothers the team. And the role of the project manager is to make sure that Scrum Master and the team gets the support from the organization. So to consider this in a hybrid environment where a project manager is looking after the hierarchical environment and hierarchical side, and the Scrum Master is focusing on getting the team fully self-organized and functional so that they don't get impacted. Few things we have to consider very, very seriously when organization looking at the Agile. Number one, how important customer satisfaction and customer feedback is to them, number one. Number two, are they willing to let go of the traditional hierarchical control of the teams? If they cannot, if any of this is not, the answer is no, then Agile is not for that organization. I hope that answers. I'm going to take one more answer. I want to do a bit of a slides. I want to give you guys a bit of information. Then I'll open it up. I'm happy to stay a little longer. Babar, Babar, yeah, Babar Hussain. Question? Do you have a question?
Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed for affording this opportunity to have you with us. Actually, my question is a little bit on a tactical level, like if we are talking about our country in Pakistan, where a lot of projects are undertaking, but governments change, things, resources are not managed in a very well way. And we see that sometimes the projects are badly monitored and the outcome we can see on ground also. So my question is related to specifically that where do the resources come in, like we talk about Agile or the traditional method, and how do we manage the resources once we have to really get down on the success of a project?
Just so that I understand, आपका question ये है Babur, what you're asking is that how so you're asking how to manage the resources or how to acquire the resources. There are two things, right? Understand one thing which is very important for us as traditional. I've been in project management for almost 27 years now. Project managers come, and that's where the communication skill and negotiation is very important. Projects are usually, mostly 99% delivered in a metrics environment. Metrics on. I hope you guys understand the concept of metrics is where you project manager has work where you do not have a reporting line in a hierarchical environment. If the resources are reporting to multiple chains, you will have a problem. You will have a challenge. I shouldn't say problem. You will have a challenge managing those resources and working with those resources, because the loyalty or again, I have to be careful with my words. It's not about loyalty. It's if somebody else is paying my salary and I've been asked to do some other work with somebody else, my inclination would be to keep my person who's paying my salary strong. Right? That's a human nature, right? And it's probably a very bad example, but that's how. So most of the resources around the organization, around the globe, organization use it. It's a metrics organization. There are very few projectized organizations where the resources are dedicated to the projects, and those organizations are basically defense are a very big example. Aircraft manufacturing companies are a very big example. They hire a dedicated team for the project, and they have a project environment. So the project or portfolio program manager owns the responsibility of hiring and firing and keeping the resources, because they own the end product, right? In that case, the government change, anything changes, because that's the fixed amount. Usually that doesn't impact them. But any other, like I said, projects are impacted by it. We, as a project manager, we exist, live and breathe within the organizations. And there's a concept of environmental factors in PMBOK. We are impacted by the environment that we deliver project in, right? I can't answer if the government changed or the project stopped. I think, again, I'm probably not the right person to comment about Pakistan. I've been out of Pakistan for 27 years, so I don't want to say that, or I don't really get into it. But ideally, what I've seen in around the world, if there are mega projects and if there is a political change in the government, this coming, incoming government may change the little bit of scope to suit their political agenda, but they normally focus on the end goal, what they're giving it to the, in the national interest. So that's one way. I'm not sure, Babur, if I think that's acquiring the resources is the negotiation, and I think that's something you have a skill. So there's no straight answer how we can keep the resources always engaged unless it's a projectized environment. Guys, I can see two more hands. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the next couple of slides, and then I'll open up. I'm happy to stay long, answer your questions. Not a problem. If that's okay, if you guys just stay with me. Okay, so I want to give you guys a bit of a comparison. So you guys know, everybody now knows traditional and this agile project management. Now, again, just remember, this is one aspect of that, because all the traditional is a very hardcore approach. Agile approach is very dynamic. It keeps changing. It's a different environment. I just showed you the Scrum may use it, but in all cases, the essence is same. Build small, build continuously, deliver iteratively, get feedback, and based on the feedback, update your environment. I think that's a question somebody. Where the Agile project manager is normally used? Agile project manager is extensively used in software and product development. It's the methodology, project management methodology of the choice. Now, there's also a debate, and I think I'm trying to remember. I think I forgot the name of the young lady who asked me about There's also a debate about whether it's an agile project management or agile approach only. I think we've passed on that the the industry is becoming much more mature and accepting of, hang on a second, agile and project management coexist. They are the same, they need to work together. You use agile where the requirements cannot be defined upfront, the full requirements. And again, I give you an example of website or a product development that you have. Startups are very good example, by the way. New startups are a very good example. They have a vision what they want to gain, how they want to approach it, but they don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months. So they may plan for 3 months and then 2 months and so on. This is also a concept of rolling wave planning. That's it. High uncertainty work, end goal is not clearly defined. So that's, I just explained. Where there's a high rate of changes, client requirements keep changing. Now, in saying that, client requirements can keep changing in construction as well, but you can't use agile there. So you have to be careful. So I said, keep this in mind. You cannot use agile if you're using, if it involves concrete or steel, and if you cannot deliver a minimal viable product for the customer. Somewhere the rework can be easily done. I remember somebody mentioned about the research work. Yeah, absolutely. Agile is a very good approach if you want to, if you're doing a research work, because you want to get value from the experimentation. You don't know what you're getting out. So you keep delivering it on a regular basis. Now, bear in mind, and there's a very big misconception about Agile is that Agile is cheap. Probably not. That Agile with that. The key concept of Agile is not that it's going to be cost effective or it's going to be quicker. Is the key objective of Agile is it's going to get you the customer satisfaction. It's going to be customer will be happy, right? So you need to keep this in mind, that the concept of the traditional approach, how Agile differs from the traditional. The end goal of Agile is customer satisfaction, right? Because if the customer is happy, then the business can run. Why are we worried about customer happiness? Because if the customer is there, that's what keeps the businesses running. If there's no customer, businesses won't work, right? If I had no one listening to me, there's no point of me delivering this webinar or this session, right? So I need you guys as my customer. I need you guys to be happy so that you can pass the word around. Without customer satisfaction, the business stops. That's the end goal of Agile. That's the key goal of Agile. And this is something that organization needs to understand. The misconception about Agile being quicker is incorrect. It may not be quicker. It can be, it may be, depending on the work that's been done. Yes, ho sakta hai, most of the cases, probably not. And the other misconception is that it's going to be cost effective. No, in fact, in most cases, it's a big question mark. The reason for that is because you can't plan in advance. जब आप ब्रिज बना रहे होते हैं तो आपको पता होता है कि यार मैंने इस एंड से उस एंड तक बनाना है, सो यू कैन प्लान फॉर इट. लेकिन आप एक एप्लीकेशन डेवलप कर रहे हैं, उस एप्लीकेशन को अगर उसका यूजेज बढ़ गया है, आप उसमें और एनहेंसमेंट. गेम्स इज अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल. इनफैक्ट इट्स अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल. जो गेम्स हैं आजकल, जो I don't play them, so I don't know, but the normal games here. I used to play FIFA. I don't know how many of you play FIFA. Every year they come up with something new enhancement, features बढ़ा दिए उसके बाद. How they do it? They do it based on the feedback that the customer is giving them. That's how they deliver, they enhance it. And what is happening? More and more people are adapting to it, right? That's the key. Now, before I take on questions, I just want to, so the way we do an Agile project management training. So one of the things that we are doing is, so we PROPRAC consultants run a regular Agile project management training. And it goes to, it will introduce anyone who has no idea about Agile. It's going to explain you what the Agile is, how the environment is done. Whatever I explain you, we go in depth. It's a virtual session at the moment. We run it Saturday, Sunday. We're running Saturday, Sunday. 3 hours daily over 2 weeks. Usually the Pakistan time hai 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm going to show you schedule. It teaches you how to do an Agile project, how you're going to do it. And we do a lot of interactive, there's a lot of exercises, there's a lot of interactivity in those sessions. It's more about you practicing it and how learning about the skills, how to do it, how to write a user story, what is involved in the user story, what is a product owner, who's a scrum master, what's the role, and so there's a detail. So as part of the training with us is you will get a certificate which is accepted globally in the industry. So you can use PROPRAC training certificate. Anywhere you go, you will accept it. You will earn 12 professional development units. We will give you that as part of it because it will be spread over 12 hours. It is recognized and accepted by Project Management Institute US. You will also get 12 project management education hours that you can use against PMI continuing certification requirement program. We also have PMI ACP certification, which is Agile Certified Practitioner. I've got some information about it, and you can use those hours against that as well. You get the free textbook, training material, and one of the things that we do is we give you a set of Agile templates to help you on your project. So if you're doing a project, and if your organization allows, you can use those templates. The main thing I want to bring it to your notice is, and this is something that we are offering only for Riphah University students and alumni, is that we're giving you a 75% discount. So our original price for this virtual class is from $499 Australian dollars, which is much lower than US dollar, but we are offering it for 125 Australian dollars. That's about 75% discount for the students and alumni. There's a schedule there. I'm gonna send it out to you guys for sure. Have a look at it. And I'm more than happy to take any question. If you got any question, I'm gonna open it up for more discussion as well. But if you have any question on the trainings, and if you're interested in anything else, I'm more than happy to give you guys, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email, by all means. The other thing I want to highlight is that somebody mentioned about project management certification. So we do not only certified PMI ACP, but also project management professional. Next session for PMP starting in 5th April. I haven't got information over there, but I can give you that. But because this was more focused on Agile, this why our PMI certification is also, like I said, it's globally in demand Agile certification. Research says that you have this certification, you probably have a chance of getting 20% more. It's usually 25. I normally don't use a conservative figure. There is a prerequisite for this certification though, and I want to highlight this, and there's a difference. You need to have 21 contact hours of training in Agile practices, and you need to have a 12-month of project management experience over the last 5 years, and at least 8 months of Agile project experience within the last 3 years. And I think I remember one of the young ladies said she's been there for the last 5 years. So we help you with that. We do that. It definitely is a universally accepted and recognized. But I say that and by the way, there's a mandatory requirement to sit in the exam. And that's what we do. We run this certification training prep course. Again, we do it, 3 hours a day over 2 weeks. We're giving you guys a 60% discount. The original price is $799 Australian dollars, but for this webinar and students and alumni, it's 320 Australian dollars. By all means, please look at it. I'll send the deck out and I'll request Dr. Samad and the team to pass on the deck to you guys so you guys can have a look at it. But you can always reach out to me as well. Okay. Open for questions. Any what questions I can ask or you guys want to ask. So let me go to, I think, let me open it up this first so that you guys can have a look at it. Okay, I think it was Mehreen, your hand was raised first. So how can I help?
Thank you, sir. I think I have already asked my questions regarding the difference between Scrum Master and Project Manager, and second was misuse of Agile. So thank you for your detailed response.
No problem. Who was next? Salim?
Maham Aslam. Sir, Maham Aslam.
Maham, sorry. Yeah, if you can help me, Abdul Rahman, I was going through the slide. I just said, so Maham, how can I help?
Sir, my question is that if we're planning along in sprints, how are we supposed to put forward a project proposal for acquiring the project in the first place from any company who would definitely want an approximate for constraints like cost or time, etc.?
That's a very good question, Maham, and that's what I said. If your organization is not ready for Agile, then it's not for you. So an organization has to accept how Agile works. I can tell you from my personal experience, transition from traditional hierarchical approach to agile approach is not easy. Organizations usually take, if there is a real desire, normally 3 to 4 years to really transition into agile, accept agile. A lot of people say, Marin raised a question about, framework and thing. A lot of people think that by having a stand-up, they've become agile. That's incorrect. So to answer your question, the way agile works, the team will pick up the features or the user stories from the backlog to work on it, and only then they can estimate. There is no way to look at the full detail requirement now.
So
In terms of sorry, I just want to explain. So in terms of budget, but to have an agile environment, you have to have an agile team or scrum team, and that team needs to be a dedicated team. So before you do anything, you have to establish a scrum team. And it's not really one team. You normally have 3, 4, 5, depending on how big the size of the team. You need to set up the scrum team before you do anything, and that team stays there and approaches the sprint. So Imam, what was your other question?
Sir, this is in the scenario if we're an employee. If we take the perspective of an independent consultant, do we advertise ourselves as agile project managers if we're going to approach any company for taking up their projects?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. So I'm an agile project manager, but can I transform a company organization into an agile? Probably not, but I can tell them how it is done. I do a lot of consulting, so I go and tell them how it is done, right? The way I'm presenting to you, I'm explaining to you guys how it is done. Now it is up to the organization to take that advice and adopt. If they're not going to take that advice, I'll move on to somebody somewhere else. But my job is, as a consultant or a agile person, to advise how it is done. And if they're willing to do it, I'm going to help them do it. So there has to be acceptance from the organization in terms of that. You can't force anything.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Sir, Muhammad Yusuf Javed want to ask any question.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. My name is Yusuf Javed. I just wanted to ask. There are certain projects like construction of dams. Suppose, for example, Kalabag Dam, Tarbela Dam, and Mangla Dam. These are the projects in which the customer involvement at that stage, even till completion, is not possible. So I hope we cannot apply agile project management on such projects. Number two, when we are talking about agile project management and talking about sprints, so all these sprints are independent from the previous sprints, or they have a linkage to that. Kindly, if you can explain this.
Yeah, Yusuf, let me ask. Your second question is absolutely gem. It's a very good question. So let me respond to your first one. So as I mentioned, agile is not a good approach when there's a concrete and construction involved. So when you talk about the dam, construction of the Kalabag Dam and the Mangla Dam, that's probably not the agile is really not the. And by the way, when they were built, Mangla Dam and Tarbela Dam, there was no concept of agile at that time. But I do want to clarify, there's always an engagement of the customer. Just to be on any project, the stakeholder engagement is big. It's very key. Now, the agile is the change in agile from the traditional is agile says we want customer on be part of our review every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. Traditional approach is very big on stakeholder engagement. In fact, in the PMBOK, there's a whole chapter of project stakeholder management. So,
really?
Yeah,
Really?
There's a whole chapter of project stakeholder management, chapter 13 in PMBOK, which talks about nothing but how to do stakeholder. That's the key. And that's what I'm saying. A project manager spends about 85 to 90% time communicating with the stakeholders, whether it's a written, verbal, anything, all sort of formal, informal. So that's the key. Don't take the stakeholders out of the project management. That's the key. Remember one thing, and this is something that I always say, projects are delivered by the people for the people. Remember that projects are delivered by the people for the people. So you have to engage with the people. So that's number one. Thus, the way of engagement with the stakeholders is totally different in Agile versus in traditional. The second question is you're about, what you're doing in sprint one, whether there's a continuity in sprint. Absolutely. So we are talking about usually, there's a concept of release. So, again, this was good. This is what we teach in the detailed course. So you would have a release over maybe a quarterly release, and maybe you will have 8, 9, or 10 sprints in a release. The goal of each sprint is to enhance. So each Scrum team will usually work on one product. They will not work on multiple products. So we talk about the team, self-organization, focus team, not multitasking. So each team will be working on one product, and each sprint they will be enhancing that one product. Does that answer your question, Yusuf?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much indeed. And if you can, I have a small another question, sir. You told that project has a temporary. It's a temporary endeavor that has it has also to be closed. So, for example, sir, in terms of infrastructure, we can say that project is closed. You are building Centaurus in Islamabad, but in terms of services, the services continue for years to come. So this closing means in terms of infrastructures, building infrastructures, or services also. How do you separate?
That's a very good question. That's again good one. Well done. Seems like you're in the industry, Mohammed Yusuf. What's your background? What are you doing? Are you studying or are you in the industry?
Sir, I am serving in for Pakistan armies.
Acha, mashallah, good, wonderful. No, so the team that delivered Centaurus, and I'm guessing that's the shopping center in Islamabad, right?
Yeah, right, sir, right.
So that the team that, or the project manager or the builder that constructed that, they must be gone, or they must have handed to somebody else. So nobody is changing that construction again. All they're doing is then it's a maintenance, which is also called BAU or business as usual. So what happens is once the project is closed, the builder has passed it on. Maybe builder has another team. So builder has passed on handed over the completed building to maintenance team or BAU team, whatever, and they manage it. The cost of the building is that's it. So how do you measure the cost of the building? So there was an initial cost of the building to construct that Centaurus. That's it. Once it's done, that's it. Good. And then it becomes a BAU maintenance thing. That's why the ongoing thing is mentioned. The project is closed. Somebody is accepted. That's why you opened it. When the Centaurus was opened, that means the project was closed because building was accepted by whosoever is going to maintain and run it on an ongoing basis. That's what it means. So that's a very good thing also. It's a good segue into explaining that any product that project produced mostly will then at the end of the project goes into somebody has to maintain it, right? Let's take an example of iPhone also. So you've delivered Apple has developed iPhone, they pass it on, but if iPhone gets damaged or something, what you do? You go and look for the service. So somebody else charges you for the service. Apple's job is done. They have given you the phone. They've closed the project. Then it becomes an ongoing services cost, ongoing service. I hope I answered your question, Mohammed Yusuf.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. G. Abdul Rahman, who's the next one?
Next one, Muhammad Zahid Abbas.
Muhammad Zahid.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have two questions. One thing is what I experienced that agile methodology is more relevant or more beneficial for the outsourcing work. Like if any organization have more outsourcing work for a project, like they don't have they cannot build a very a lot of people's team, and project manager can work there, and different organizations can provide them as a scrum master service, and the project manager can integrate that and communicate with stakeholder, and in that case the change is easy to accept, and stakeholder communication is also perfectly all right, to get the project success done. Is it right? This is my question. And second thing is, in your organization, for the training and other things you are providing, services are providing, but how one of us or person can work some of the project in the consultancy or other project which your organization can have, so we can contribute there and we can get experience in that. So these are my two questions.
Thank you very much. So two things. So in terms of your first question, whether Agile is for outsourcing, I would say probably not. It doesn't matter. So the key two factors for the Agile, just remember, like I said, the two factors is it's something that the customer should get a viable product, something usable product at the end of the sprint. If no matter how, whether it's an outsourced company, you outsource it or you do it internally, it doesn't matter. But that's you do need to have this approach. And secondly, Agile is not really for construction and where you have cement and steel. So in terms of you working with PROPRAC consultants, we have some work in most of our work is in training in Australia. We are trying to do something in Pakistan at the moment. We haven't started yet. By all means, connect. If there's something that interests you and if the skill set match, why not? More than happy. Stay connected. Come join our trainings. That's something that we are trying to do as well. By all means, take advantage of the really good discount that we are giving for Riphah University students and alumni. Yeah, by all means, stay in touch. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to help, guide you guys whatever I can. No problem.
For these offers, Fahim Sahib will obviously get back to you. Obviously, the Dean, Professor Dr. Kuram Shahzad is already with you in the liaison of these offerings. So we're really glad that you have shared this opportunity with our scholars. So we'll definitely get back to you to avail this opportunity ahead. So we just keep
No problem.
endorse the
No
same
problem.
and
No, thank you very much.
session. Thank you.
Pleasure. Anything like we can. I know. I just letting the attendees know if they want. By all means.
Okay, sir. Sir, Numan Arshad Saab want to ask a question.
Thank you very much, Abdul Rahman. Very kind of you for your help. Ji Numan Saab.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Fahim Jafar. I am Numan Arshad and I am currently also associated with Riphah International University, and I'm a lecturer here basically. I just want to thank you for providing this very insightful session for the students, and I believe you have introduced Agile project management in a very good way. I just want to add two answers of the questions that were asked throughout the session regarding the government sector projects in this Pakistan. Basically, if we look in the government projects from the Pakistan perspective, because I've been working in the different projects, so they have different PC documents like PC1, PC2, PC3, and PC4 documents, which are for the like if we make the relationship these PC documents with this PMBOK guide, so it can have like some document is for the feasibility study, some is for the planning, and some is for the monitoring session. So when we try to integrate this PC documents with Agile project management, I have observed that there is a huge gap between the two, and it is very difficult and very challenging situation for most of the government projects to adopt these Agile methodologies. So we need to do something to incorporate Agile methodologies, because its focus is all about value delivery to the stakeholders into these PC documents that can be one of the project and that can be worked on. Basically, this question was asked by some Babar, I believe. So that's the answer of that question. Second, yes, sir.
Nani, sorry. Nani, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
And secondly, sir, I want to add one more thing. Like there is a huge misconception regarding this Agile project management and its implementation in the construction industry. Recently, as you said, you told that most of the time we use this Agile project management in the software and IT, and this is the way it is. But recently, based on the advance in technology, as we see that in construction industry, we have the BIM technology available, which is business information modeling, and we can build 3D models of the buildings and the construction of the different roads and the high rise in the software itself. So in the design phase itself, we can develop the sprints, like we can develop the 3D models, we can share these models with the clients, and then they can give us feedback, and based on their feedback we can improve the models, and then once models are finalized and they are prototyped, then we can build into the construction zone. And this is how I mean that we can also implement this Agile project management in the construction industry itself. So it's a great research area where currently great research is being done as well.
No, thank you very much, Numan Sahib. It's really good. No, it's good to know. You're absolutely right. I think one of the things that I keep saying about I myself is pursuing PhD so at University of Sydney. So and I keep saying that we have to take that in consideration. Again, I can understand, being, born in Pakistan, the traditional Pakistan is a hierarchical. We have a hierarchical environment, right? Whether we like it or not, but that's how the hierarchical. So Agile will only be successful if the organizational hierarchical model is not influenced, if the teams are let to do their own. Because, like I said, Agile is an art, right? And project management, the traditional approach is a science. Both have to live together. In organizational cultures, country cultures do impact the way we work. That's the reality. But you made a very good, very good point. Thank you very much.
Well, just based on your experience, I've seen your profile. You have been working in the establishing the project management offices. So I would just like to ask one question from you: that if we want to implement this agile project management in the project management office, and if we want to transition from project management office to the agile project management office, how can we achieve that? So I just wanted to know about that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we have to do an assessment. Like I said, my advice to always to my clients is before they think about asking me a good question. A lot of people these days are asking about, how do we become more agile? How do we, move into projects? So my research is in project management, setting up flexible governance in the project management office. My number one question is, why do you want to have a agile environment? What is it for your business? Is it really for your business? Would it help you, right? And if the answer is yes, then we do a bit of analysis, simple analysis, it's a very simple way, and I'm more than happy to do it with you if you want. But you have to decide, organizations have to first decide whether it is really going to help them. Remember, the transition from traditional to agile is not easy. It is really, it requires a lot of rigor. It requires a lot of structure. It requires a lot of patience. And usually, and I'm telling you from my experience in the West, with the change of sponsorship and leadership, sometime at the leadership organization, leadership change, 3 to 4 years, the direction changes. And one of the things that is really killing for transition from traditional to agile is when the leadership changes and they say, no, we don't want agile. We are happy where we are. And you're just stuck in the middle. You're neither this side or that side. So first, shred of doubt, don't go agile. That's not. No. So in saying that, these days there's a big concept of agile shift. If you do some, I can send you some research on it. Organizations are looking at how they're going to break away from the traditional approach and be an agile business model. That's something is very key these days happening. Maybe that's something you want to do. But yeah, I think it's a good question, but something that I'm happy to have a chat, talk to you about, give you a bit of a guideline how we can approach it. The number one question is it really for you, like for the organization? If the answer is no, don't do it. Don't do it. It's going to be waste of time and money. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No problem. Pleasure, Ahmad. Thank you. Ji Ahmad, you're the only last one.
Sir, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for such an informative talk, and it was really helpful.
Pleasure.
I'm a student myself. I just wanted to ask, sir, we define a project which has a definite scope, a definite budget, and a definite schedule, sir. Now, as per the Agile methodology, our prime focus or prime interest is the customer satisfaction. Now, how do we keep the scope, or usko hum kis tarike se we keep it defined or we keep it definite so that the customer remains satisfied while we also stick to our agile methodology, sir?
Ahmad, number one thing in Agile, you can't have a definite scope. You just can't. That's the whole idea. Agile ki evolve इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि the problem was that there was a definite scope, there was a definite timeline, there's a definite budget. Agile is basically a reaction to that, definite concept. Okay, no, we can't do that. And that's why it started with software development. you cannot use Agile in a situation where you are restricted with, constraint. You're constrained by your scope. That's why Agile is change friendly. It is more change, and I think I stand corrected. Agile is change friendly. Traditional is also change friendly, but it's just that traditional change takes longer to accept the change and go through the change, acceptance of the change and the process and analysis. In Agile, it's the team, self-organizing, self-sufficient teams. They can make the call there and then. Okay, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is what we need to do it. So I think that's something you have to consider. You can't have definite scope in Agile. It just doesn't work. It's not meant to be. The basics of Agile, it goes against the basic criteria of Agile. If I would, you know what I mean?
Right, sir. But actually, I was saying the project is defined as something which has a definite scope, a budget, and a timeline, sir. So now, if we are doing a project and we do it with the Agile methodology, and if the scope of the project keeps on changing, so it certainly there would be a limit we will set. Ki is time tak we cannot change the scope. This is the line. Okay, this is the red line. Beyond this, we cannot change the scope of it. So do we define any such thing in it?
No, I think I probably should you know what, Ahmad, you raised a very good point. I should change the heading as what is the traditional project? What is a traditional project? But because you're right, this traditional definition of project doesn't apply to Agile. It just doesn't, because it's a reaction. I should probably change it. It's a PMBOK definition. I should probably change it to. Thank you very much. It's a good feedback, right? Really good feedback. Nobody has raised it before. I've never thought about it, so it's good. Thank you very much. I owe you one, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other question?
No, sir. I think we are good for now.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to quickly, if you don't mind, somebody asked me about the skills, and sorry, I'm just going to that sheet. I had. I wanted to show you. I believe I have that. Sorry, guys. This is for, let's say, Agile is not suitable if you cannot do most important thing first, which is minimum viable product in construction manufacturing industry or anything that uses steel or concrete. And this is the question I think somebody asked me about some of the skills of the project manager. So I thought I'll share that as well in case you need that. So I'm happy, I'll put that in the slide as well. But yeah, no, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate you coming over, attending the session. I'm grateful, Dr. Samad and Abdul Rahman and the rest of the team for giving me the opportunity for Riphah University. More than happy, my contact details. If there's anything I can respond to you, by all means, please reach out.
In fact, it is very kind of you to share your very well thoughts and all of the facts and figures regarding the agile world. In fact, so we are looking forward for a long-term collaboration and to unfold many other aspects which we can mutually taken up together. So for basically for the facilitation of our scholars and for the mutual prosperity into the world of this project management. So we'll definitely get back to you, and on behalf of the FMS, our scholars, alumni, and overall faculty, thank you the efforts being done by the Mr. Abdul Rahman Sahab as well, and our other faculty member who has raised the questions, Mr. Numan Arshad as well. So, sir, we'll definitely get back to you as early as possible, and really grateful for your very well thoughts sharing and very open-hearted offers for our graduates. Very kind of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samad. Thank you very much. Pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Much appreciate that. I always
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And for the students, as it is being mentioned by the Mr. Abdul Rahman, kindly fill the feedback form so that we can keep on arranging such kind of sessions for you. And obviously, we'll just keep you updated for such opportunities ahead. So very kind of you for your kind participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
I would like
Thank
to.
you, and Allah Hafiz, sir.
I would like to request to all of you. Kindly
Thank you very much, sir.
to
This
get
was a
an
very
English
learned session,
certificate.
sir. Thank you very much for your answers.
जी काइंडली फॉर्म जिसे अब्दुल रहमान साहब कह रहे हैं जरूर फिल कर लीजिएगा, इन्होंने लिंक शेयर किया हुआ है. दैट सर्व्स द पर्पस टू फॉर योर रीड सर्टिफिकेट एज वेल एंड प्लस प्रोवाइड जस्ट द जेन्युइन फीडबैक. ठीक है कि हम कैसे इस तरह के सेशंस को और स्ट्रेंथन कर सकते हैं. तो अगेन थैंक यू फॉर योर पार्टिसिपेशन एंड काइंडली फॉर्म जरूर फिल कीजिएगा. थैंक यू. जी अब्दुल रहमान साहब कोई और बात कहना चाह रहे थे या?
No sir, thank you sir.
अच्छा, वेरी काइंड ऑफ यू अब्दुल रहमान साहब, वेरी वेल डन, शाबाश.
Thank you sir.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah
Hafiz.